Show us your jazz hands, folks. On today's episode of Backstage 360, I'll be sitting down in the loft with Paul Nolin. He's the executive producer for Jazz Winnipeg. And then musical performances from Curtis Noisette and Marco Castillo. Plus, we'll have world bachata champions Regan and Harold show you how it's really done. But first, here's a great story on a local jazz trumpeter, Chuck Copenace, who has turned his life around through music.
My name's Chuck Copenace. I'm a jazz trumpeter. I used to play in a band called Moses Mays. We toured around all over Canada and parts of the States. But I haven't been playing for a little while, for about 5 years. So this year I decided I'm going to put a band together, playing groovy electronic, kind of funky jazz kind of stuff. I wasn't into music at all. It was kind of like everyone's forced to do music in grade 7. So I was looking for the smallest instrument case because I knew I had to carry it around. So I picked the flute, but I couldn't play it after a night, so I grabbed the trumpet the next day. I still had some time to choose. And when I grabbed the trumpet, I brought it home. It just seemed really easy. It only had 3 buttons on it, and so it was very simple. And I guess that's what caught, because I ended up finishing the grade 7 book in the next couple days. Music, right from when I started playing it, it became the kind of the central thing in my life, and it became what I do even when I was going through high school and junior high school. I remember coming home after school and I would play for 2 or 3 hours every day after school. And nobody was really telling me to do that. It was just something that I would do. And it just became something that I defined myself as someone who plays trumpet really quick. After university and after high school, I started having problems with alcohol and drugs. When I was in Vancouver and I was playing in bands and stuff, but I was having a lot of trouble in my life. I know for sure that music was the only thing that was kind of staying constant in my life. It was times in really dark periods where it was the only thing that was keeping me thinking that, you know, it was kind of keeping me kind of defined. And then when I got sober and came to Winnipeg, I got into social services kind of work, and that's very fulfilling as well. A year break turned into 5 years, but I was doing other really good work too, so now I want to do my good work and I want to do the trumpet work and kind of try to mix them all together. I'd like to inspire young people, but primarily Native people, to choose, you know, another path musically. There isn't a lot of people playing instrumental, like choosing trumpet or choosing saxophone. All these things are options for everybody, and I'd like to be able to inspire Native kids to take those options as well.
Ooh, I think I hear a little bit of cool jazz in the room. Paul Nolin from Jazz Winnipeg, and we're going to talk about fashion.
Oh, yeah, my favorite subject.
Well, you know what? I've known you for so many years, and you know what? Each year you come a little bit more chicly dressed, and well, I have to say, very, very sharp dressed man.
Well, thank you very much.
And I kind of think your wife has a lot to do with it.
Yes, absolutely, she does. And Mountain Equipment Co-op, I think.
Oh, yes. Just that plug in there.
There you go.
Oh, no. But you know what? The jazz scene is truly remarkable. The whole music scene in Winnipeg, but you know, in particular, the Jazz Festival, it really has, I think, culminated into something that everybody looks forward to in June, and every year you deliver. So how did you even land the job of executive producer?
Wow, good question. You know, I started off in the music industry, I think possibly in the best way imaginable, and that's by starting to manage a local group that I was, you know, I was best friends with the guys in the group, and
well, who were they?
They were called Spur of the Moment. Some people might remember them, others may not. But it just kind of was my first foray into music, and it just kind of snowballed from there, hopping from contract job to contract job, volunteering here and there. one of those contracts was working for Jazz Winnipeg as their promotions and communications guy.
Okay.
And I looked at Dave Sherman, who was running things at the time, and I was like, oh goodness, this looks like a great job. And that was the extent of it. You know, I didn't sabotage his career, I don't think, or anything. But a few years later rather, he moved on, and I went for it, and here I am 13, 14 years later.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you probably get asked this an awful lot, and I have seen every jazz fest that you've been at the helm, but the music, how you find and source out these acts, because it really is an eclectic blend. And at first we were thinking, even when the festival first started, oh, it's going to be jazz, and we were thinking esoterical, you know, 15-minute drum solos, you know, 20-minute trumpet solos. But I mean, there is that too, but you have broadened it so much.
Yeah, I think it's imperative, and I don't think it's just the Winnipeg Jazz Festival. I think it's a trend that you will find if you look all around the world, North Sea, Monterey, festivals down in New York. You know, I think just as the music industry shifts, and I think the way we consume music and how that changes, you know, you're not buying a record anymore, you're buying a song you like here and there, and you're constantly sampling. I think a positive spin-off of that is how people's tastes diversify, and that's been kind of my approach with the festival. People are discovering that they love music in general, and the notion of genres becomes less relevant. We are a jazz festival. I'm a huge jazz fan. It's the jazz music that excites me tremendously, but I'm also a good music fan, and I think many, many Winnipeggers are as well.
Yeah, so who are some of the more memorable acts for you?
Well, you ask how I got into the business. I mean, in that period when I was thinking, man, Dave's job would be pretty cool to have, part of my thinking at that time was, oh, if ever I had that job, I would totally bring Al Green in. And I got Al Green into town a few years later, and that was a real high for me. Probably the most extreme example of me being starstruck. I could barely speak around the guy. Robert Plant was a high, you know, Steve Martin. We presented him not in the Jazz Festival, but having that opportunity. The Roots on a couple of occasions.
Yes.
I had a less than positive interaction with Questlove because, you know, as you say, I'm so well dressed. When I was working the door, I think he thought I was security, and he commented on, you know, his thoughts on security backstage at the venue.
Oh, goodness.
By the way, I'm being sarcastic about well dressed.
Yeah.
I mean, those were a few high points.
Yeah.
You know, other highlights are not so much about celebrity, but it's connections at the festival. It's artists, whether it's local and touring artists connecting on stage or backstage. You know, stories of George Benson going up to the King's Head after his show, and I think it was Aaron Shore that he connected with. Joanna Majoko, who's a great local singer.
Yes.
Last year, we had an after party after Esperanza Spalding, and so Steve Kirby and his band were playing there, but then they just kind of did an open mic kind of thing, and Joanna went up to sing, and then there was this great drummer out of New Jersey or New York, doesn't matter, Otis Brown III. We had him up at the festival last year. He used to play with Esperanza. So there was this moment on stage where it's Joanna singing, Otis Brown on drums, and Esperanza playing bass. And I think Will Bonas was on piano. And it was just like, this is why I do it right there.
That is cool.
It was very cool. And then Otis invited Joanna to Paris to play a few gigs with her, I think last summer or sometime. Yeah. So having a small part to play and just in getting these amazing people together is really exciting.
Oh, well, that definitely makes your job a lot easier.
Yeah.
And now let's look at the local scene. Magical Man, Steve Kirby, that came and made Winnipeg his home and brought, you know, Annalisa, that they've done so much for the jazz faculty. I guess, how have you seen it change here locally over the years?
I think there was an interesting confluence of events back in 2004. That's right around when Steve and Annalisa came to town, and Steve got the gig over at the university. It was also right around then that Izzy Asper started his radio station, Cool FM. And a part of that was investing in the Jazz Festival. So Cool FM became title sponsor of the Jazz Festival. So there was a financial investment there. So there was this really great confluence of events of Steve coming to town and doing that work, and then Jazz Winnipeg getting considerable extra resources thanks to the Asper family and that radio station. This is on top of an already pre-existing rock-solid foundation here in the jazz community. You know, Ron Paley, Michelle Gregoire, Ken Gold, and on and on and on. So I think everything just kind of converged and has been growing since.
Yeah, so some really young stars have gone. Curtis Nosat, for instance, and a few others. It's pretty special.
A few have gone down south and they're doing really well. Curtis is a great example. Carl Kohut is down in Manhattan. Luke Selleck is studying down there. Niall Bakastad-Laguerre, I've got a very hard time with his last name, but he's down south studying. So it's been a really terrific springboard.
Yeah, and it's also nice because they come back here to play.
Yeah,
they never truly forget home.
Indeed, yeah, and I take great pride in having them back at the festival to, maybe reinforce that spirit of homecoming.
Oh yes, and we really thank you so much too, because we have so much fun doing the open air concerts at the Cube. I mean, it really is, everybody comes off of that with such a high, the music and the crowd, and it's like, wow, this is Winnipeg. It really is cool.
It's a really fun way to kick off the festival. A few years ago I experimented with putting the weekend at the tail end of the festival, played with the dates a little bit, but no, there's nothing like kicking off that 11-day festival with 4 days of free music in the park. All
right, so what does the future hold for Jazz Winnipeg, and where do you want to take it? What's the next
That's a good question. Oh my goodness. Every year is a quest for something new, a quest for something exciting. So every year is an opportunity for me to try to introduce something new or unexpected in the community. I also, I still really enjoy trying to get the big stars in. That's big fun too. And then also watching these people develop in the community. There are some people in the lineup this year, man, they look like they could be my kids. It's crazy. So there's an interesting shift for me, but I look at these young kids and they're so talented, and you get excited about what the future holds for them in the music industry. So there's all these different little elements that make the stew or the gumbo of the Jazz Festival, and every year you just want to keep it fresh and tasty.
Oh, well, gee, you're making me hungry now. Oh, well, anyways, we thank you. Winnipeg thanks you, Paul. Jazz has now become a part of the soul of Winnipeg. I truly believe that.
Well, in terms of mutual admiration, you've always been a great supporter of the festival and the community, too, so thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
My drunk blackout hit 4 minutes after she told me that, so I don't remember why it was a favorite number.
After the break, it's Snack and a Movie with Madison Thomas.